Hello, my name is Voya and welcome to My Deep Guide and another guitar edition, as you can see around me. So today we're going to be checking out Harley Benton HSS configuration of their Fusion 3 model guitars. Very popular ones at that, because they seem to offer a lot, actually on paper most, than any other competitor for the given price. I went ahead and ordered 3 of these that you can see. So this one over here is the cheapest one, then this one is a little bit more expensive, and the most expensive one is this one over there. Underneath it, they're all the same guitar. They also have the same roasted maple neck, which is one of the most important elements of a Harley Benton Fusion 3 guitar. And they have the same pickup set, the same hardware set, the same tuners. Everything is seemingly the same. I was actually curious, what is the difference between a 200, a 400, and a 500 something US dollar Harley Benton Fusion 3? So let's check it out. So let's start with the olive matte stain guitar. As you can see, this is the standard kind of finish that they have. So it's a pretty standard HSS configuration, tremolo here, normal jack down here, volume control, push pull tone, push pull for coil split, 5-way switch. These are Alnico 5 pickups, 24 jumbo frets. There's a Graph-Tack tusk nut here at the front and staggered locking tuners. And it's actually 3 levels, so you have highest, medium, and lowest, depending on which string it is that you're working with. The neck is the roasted maple neck, flamed maple neck, as you can see. And there's also a roasted flame maple, well, they say that it's a roasted flame maple fingerboard, but I guess it depends which piece you get. In this one, OMT, not really so much. In the other two, yeah, definitely there is a flame there. So at the headstock, you have the Harley Benton here, Pro Series. And the interesting thing is that this is not just paint, this is actually relief. This is, I guess, stenciled on top. The only question here would be, will this chip off over time so that it is no longer saying Harley Benton, it actually says something else. When I ordered all of these 3, I ordered them A stock, so not B stock or anything like that, because I wanted to see how does the quality control and what the quality is like for these guitars when you buy them new, not B stocks, not returns or anything like that. So all 3 were chosen like that. When I purchased this one, it was listed, the OMT, it was listed for $270. And these were like 400 and something, and then pretty much close to $500 for this one over here. But now, when I actually check it out, this one costs pretty much like $399 or something like that, which was definitely not the case. So that changes my perspective a little bit as well. Now, you get the same type of oval C neck shape on all 3 guitars. In fact, all 3 are the identical same guitars, except on theory they should be just different finishes, which is not really true, or partially true. So all of them have the same configuration, same staggered locking tuners, same tusk nut, 24 jumbo frets, roasted maple necks, Alnico 5 pickups, I don't know, is it Wilkinson? Yeah, Wilkinson 552K tremolo here. Same configuration, tone, push-pull, volume, 5-way switch, and Nyota body. Right? So where they should be differing is that these 2 have a flamed maple veneer on top, and it's a different finish, and obviously this one is stained matte. These are glossy finished bodies only. The neck is lovely satin finish. So that's basically like the configuration and where they are. Now, why did I mention the B stock versus A stock? Because I wanted to start talking about the build quality, and then I kind of stopped myself, because that's something that I think is not really discussed much in many of the reviews that I've seen. So let me just kind of recap where I'm coming from and all of the reviews that I've seen that are talking about these Fusion 3 Pro Series guitars. If you check the titles, they will say the best #1 budget guitar, the most beautiful #1 budget guitars that you can buy, and yes, something to that extent, right? But not many are actually talking about the quality and the quality control, more importantly. And that's something that you do get to see when you check out 3 models at the same time of the same guitar. Preferably, like ideal testing would have been 3 models, 3 units of the same exact model, but I wanted to test out the differences here. But to all intents and purposes, this should be the exact same model, just different finishes. Right off the bat, I can tell you that, so that you don't have to wait the whole video, I won't be keeping either of these 3, and it is due to the quality control issues that each of these guitars that I have received, that are not B-stock units, each and single one of them had issues. And these issues, some of them were the same, some of them were different. But before we go and talk about those issues, let's check out the clip how it looked like when I just unpacked these guitars and then I plugged them in, and this is the first playthrough and just first impressions of, like, literally the first time getting these guitars into my hands, and the only thing that was done off the camera was tuning them, nothing else. wow. Right off the bat, they all sound very, very similar, but not identical and a little bit different. So as far as I'm concerned, this one was really, really kind of bitey, nasal, very rocky, very in your face, and pretty much, yeah, rock on and that kind of stuff. So kind of, yeah, the hardest sounding one, and a little bit harsh in the treble side of things. The FBB, like this, yes, the FBB was actually a little bit more warmer and a little bit more fuller kind of sounding, and that led me to play it in a little bit of a different way. And the Flamed Natural was somewhere in between. It was kind of in the brighter section like the OMT here, but it was not so aggressive, and it had a bit more of a better kind of response control like the FBB also had. So as far as my own personal preference goes, I enjoyed playing the FBB most, and I actually enjoy the look of the FBB most. We will check them out as well, but that's basically like the first playthrough. Now, as you've noticed during the playthrough, I thought it was actually important to capture that first moment and the first impression of understanding what the guitar feels like when you get it new, brand new, right? Right out of the bat, the frets are in an absolutely dreadful state on all three of the guitars. So please just take a listen to this. That is beyond rough. And, you know, somebody will say, well, yeah, but if you play it a little bit, then they will kind of polish themselves up magically. No, they won't. You're just gonna scrub the oxidization a little bit more with your strings, but that's not gonna polish the frets. You will need to polish the frets properly, and we're talking about multiple levels of sanding paper and then also the steel wool and all of these things to bring these frets up to a properly decently playable level as far as the finish goes. And it's not just me. When my brother came by and he was like, oh, well, what are they like? And he grabbed just one of them, tried to play, and the first bend, just a slight vibrato that you do, exact same reaction as me, which was like, whoa, what the hell is this? So I really have to say that I have never ever experienced on any of the other guitars, even like super budget ones, I've never experienced this level of roughness of the frets or the fret finish of a brand new guitar, especially not at this price range. And that's something that other reviews are actually not talking about, or maybe I was so incredibly unlucky that all three of these guitars of the same models had the same exact issue. Which one is the case, I'll let you be the judge of that, but I've documented what the actual state of the frets is of a brand new Harley Benton guitar, in this case Fusion III Pro series. And the fret story doesn't really end there as well, because the fret edges are not good. They are not good at all. This one is the best one out of the three. And for me it was surprising, because this one, in my mind, because I've got it for a lot less money than the other two, I was surprised that the fret edges and the fret treatment was actually the most acceptable on the cheapest one. But now that I actually, take a look and see that, wait a minute, that was an anomaly of some sort, all three are actually the same price, then it just adds to that whole inconsistency of the quality control of the Harley Benton guitars, because you really have no idea what it is that you're gonna get. Maybe you will get something that's actually nicely finished and done, like the edges are quite acceptable, not great. You would need some more refinement, especially around this here. But as far as playing, I could definitely play and it was acceptable. On the other two, absolutely not. Especially the FBB. The FBB one had really rough edges up to the point that I was thinking that I'm actually going to cut myself. So each of the three guitars, when you get it, comes with the quality inspection card, which says this instrument has been thoroughly checked before dispatch. Yikes. Service is very important to us. Good. Its functions and settings have been checked by our service teams, I guess the guitar's functions. Constant and proper maintenance is imperative in order to preserve the value, appearance and functionality of the instrument. I agree. Please use only suitable cleaning agents and make sure the instrument is stored in an appropriate humidity level. And then it says who checked it and that kind of signature over there. Quality control, John. All right, John. So what are the issues that I have with this models as far as quality control goes? Well, not so many. It was actually okay, but there are a couple of ones that are reason enough to kind of return it. And the main reason is that right around here, there are like some scratch marks, quite noticeable scratch marks here around this area, and that to me is not really an acceptable thing, especially not for a quality inspected product that has quality control things as well. When you just unpack it and you see a scratched up guitar, and I ordered it as a brand new one, not a B stock, then yeah. Now granted, maybe because the price is lower, maybe Thomann, where I ordered it from, maybe Thomann Music screwed things up and didn't list it as a B stock when it should have been listed as a B stock. I really don't know. But I, as a customer, didn't intentionally wanted not to buy a B stock. I wanted to buy a brand new guitar, and this is my experience. So in my mind, I bought a new guitar and I open it up and it has scratches all over the place here. The second thing is that the tuners, they are differently tightened up, and each of them has different type of resistance. Granted, out of the three guitars, this one is easiest to tune and most consistent, but still the B and the A strings on this one are a little bit rougher and tougher, and therefore it's not as smooth as the other tuners are. So that quality control setup there was not that great. String height was okay. It's around 2-point-something millimeters. I think it was 2.2, 2.1 millimeters string height. And the neck itself is actually okay. So the truss rod is set up in an okay way. So the overall setup is fine, except that the pickup height is way too high. So this is something that I guess that's why the aggressive sound is there. And the bridge is actually nicely leveled. So the setup is actually quite good, especially for a medium-priced range budget guitar. Then we get to the FBB guitar, and again, same exact setup. The only difference is that it has a flamed maple top veneer on there, and everything else is Nyota. And also the finish is different, so you have this black dark kind of body in the back, and over here on the sides you get to have a little bit of a look at the Nyota body and then the veneer on top, and it is a two-part veneer, as you can see. And the quality control one here, and in this case it's the same thing, except this time we have marked checked by 4163 quality control John. All right, so we do have the number who has checked this one, and on the previous one we had a we had the signature. The setup on this one is equally good, although the strings are a little bit higher than they are on the OMT. The pickup height is equally super high, and the middle pickup is ridiculously high. I mean, it's the highest one of them all, as you can actually see here, and that one interfered quite a lot when playing. Picking or anything, this was constantly in the way. And also the sound was not balanced at all, because if I would switch from the neck pickup to the middle pickup, the sound would just boost all the way up, which makes sense when you actually see just how far up that middle pickup has been kind of bumped up. Tremolo is nice and level, so that's all good. And the neck is, yeah, the truss rod is set up very nicely. And the tuners are set up okay, but on this one as well, we had the G and D were over tightened and not as consistent as the other tuners, so you didn't have the super smooth consistency, and it was actually quite a bit more relevant on this one. But by far the biggest issue on this one are fret edges and the fret edge treatment, which is simply too rough. Now over time it will get better, but for this price range, especially down here, these are very, very rough and very, very sharp. You don't have the actual fret edges sticking out, but the edge treatment itself is sharp. And that's something that continuously kind of, yeah, it's a sore point, definitely. And, you know, there should be some more smoothing. Oof, this one actually is popping out as well. The neck itself is gorgeous. And you have the flame maple, which is far, far more intricate and a lot more beautiful on this one. So much so that you can actually have very intricate and beautiful flamed maple figures on the headstock as well. And the headstock is actually of a glossy type. There is not that much flame on the fingerboard itself, almost none actually, but there are some issues that you can actually kind of see, not really big ones, but there's a little bit of a knot here that you can see. It's not much of a stain, and there's also a little bit of a kind of blemish down here, if the camera can actually pick that one up. Maybe yes, maybe not. I can't really see in the display, sorry about that. Other than that, most of the stuff was actually really good on this one. And if I was inclined to keep either of the three, this is the one that I would keep, but I would need to do the fretwork for sure, because for me, okay, I didn't check the upper side is even rougher. I would need to definitely deal with the fret edges and absolutely polishing the frets, because that's not an okay. And of course I would set it up so that it's much more to my liking. One thing I didn't mention, but it's also very consistent on all of them, is that the quality of the 5-way switch, not exactly the best. It's whenever you see actually a 5-way switch that is that much loosey, that means that over time that switch is going to give you problems. So this is something that I would definitely replace if I were to keep this guitar. Actually, in fact, I would replace all of the electronics, because I really don't like how the quality of the electronics is in any of these three guitars. But out of the three, this one suited my needs the best, and quality-wise, this one had the least amount of issues, or the issues that I was able to deal with without much difficulty whatsoever. And then we get to the Flamed Natural, or FNT version of the Fusion III Pro series guitars. And this one is the most expensive one, right? So this is supposed to be the most premium one, and it had quality-wise the most amount of issues. Like cumulatively, it's just like I don't know what the hell happened here, but this one is not good. So this one was checked by 7396, whatever. But interestingly, on the back here, there's no QC control sticker at all. So on the face of it, this is a beautiful guitar, like no question about it. It's really, really nice. I was surprised that it's actually glossy, because on the internet images and everything, it doesn't look actually glossy, but it is. It's super glossy and it looks really, really beautiful. The other thing that I really love about the finish of this guitar is that the back is this lovely kind of dark cherry red, but it's not a paint. You can actually see the structure of the wood, of the Naota wood, and that's something that's very nice. I prefer to see a structure of the wood, and you can see it all over the place in this model. So it's really, really beautiful, and I think the most stunning one to look at, especially for the price range of the three. It has the most figures of flamed maple here, so obviously there's a selection set. Which figurines are they going to be kind of picking, which neck is going to go for more pricier versions of the guitars, and you can see that there's actually flamed maple on the fingerboard as well. So there's no question about it. This is a gorgeous looking guitar, and for the price, it's beyond anything that I would expect as far as the looks go. It's really, really stunningly beautiful to look at or hang on the wall. However, this particular model has a couple of issues, and let's start with the super glaringly obvious one, which is this blemish here. That's a stain. That's a stain. So that kind of indicates that this roasted maple neck, while probably it is roasted, it looks roasted, but it looks like that it's also stained as well. The headstock is fine, but this one had a little issue here. Nothing really terrible, but it is a blemish and it is kind of there. The tuners were actually the worst on this one, because most of them are, 3 of them are over tightened, 1 is kind of loose, and only 2 are normal smooth. So that one was not that good. The frets are equally bad as on the FBB, and actually in some areas even worse. So it's more consistently bad around this area. Here it's consistently bad, and also there were some height issues as well when I was checking out with the fret rocker. Yeah, it was a little bit of inconsistencies here and there. So if you would want to set this guitar for super low action, then you would probably run into those issues, as the diameter of the neck is there. So once you start kind of bending, and if any imperfections or irregularities in the fret height equality will, you know, show their ugly head. Setup is actually quite good, 2 millimeters string height. As you can see, the pickup height is far more equal now, especially on the middle pickup. It's not sticking out so much, but I would put those down because it still is getting in the way. And the height difference, well, I don't know how to actually record that, but the height difference of the middle pickup, it's very, very low here, and way too high on the lower end as well. And that can be actually said for all of the pickups on this guitar. The angle between the steep slanting angle is way too high. This one also has horrific issues with the fret finish. It's just really ugly to play, and uninviting to play. That's kind of the problem. The tremolo is set up good, although it is kind of leaning a little bit more towards the back, and the pots were fine and they were normally functioning. However, as you've noticed in my first initial playthrough, this one is a bit of an issue, because sometimes it will stay, but sometimes it will just pop. back, as you can see. And there we go. The same kind of thing, jiggliness of the pot. And this, in quite all honesty, this is really easy to fix, because all you need to do is lift the black cap so that you can allow the switch to actually go a little bit further, and that the cap doesn't really hit the notch, because that's what's happening here. But what kind of quality control is that? If you allow this to come out, and that's not all. As far as the blemishes go, there's a blemish. Now that's going to be very difficult to kind of catch with the camera. So just around here, I'm really not sure if the camera is able to catch this, but there is a blemish right there, and there's a similar type of a blemish right around here. I'm not sure if the camera is going to be able to pick that up, but right around the edge where the veneer meets the Nyota body, there's also a blemish around there. Again, not a big deal, but the biggest issue for me on this guitar is this stain here, and the fact that this one will not stay where it needs to stay. So for me, honestly, this is not a big deal, because I know how to fix it. But Harley Benton guitars, and especially Fusion III Pro series, wherever you go, you are going to see like the number one, the best budget guitar that you can buy. Who is going to be most interested in budget guitars? Well, everybody is going to be interested in budget guitars up to some degree. But the beginners are the ones who are going to be looking at budget guitars naturally, right? And a beginner doesn't have experience enough to actually maintain and set up and fix these issues on their own. And especially not if you're actually buying the most expensive version of this budget one, which is no longer that much budgety, because we're talking about, 500-ish bucks. That is considerable amount of money. You get exceptional value in the woods themselves and the beauty, right? If you get the non-blemished version of the quality controlled unit. But if you do, what do? You return it, you accept it the way it is. What do you do with this one? What do you do with the frets? What do you do with pickup settings and all of that kind of stuff? Well, if you're a beginner, then you don't really know that much. And for the frets, the frets, that's gonna cost a lot if you don't have the tools and you don't know how to set that up yourself. I'm absolutely certain that it's once those things are done. Actually, I'm going to switch back to FBB, because these I'm going to cut myself. So why am I actually, going on about the quality control and everything like that? Well, because the recent video that I've done of another budget series was the Squier Telecaster series, and that one ranges from $200 to $400 to almost $470 US for the most expensive one. And there you could see a clear and consistent increase in quality control and consistency of quality control when the price went higher up. So the cheaper guitar, of course, naturally had lower quality control. The more expensive versions of the guitar, much more consistent. And what you got was, quite honestly, several categories above what I can see and play here. Because yes, these are very striking guitars to look at. And yes, they do have locking tuners. And maybe this tremolo is of a bit better quality for sure, because you have individual saddles and things like that. So yeah, those things are pretty good. But what it is that you're actually playing on and interacting with all of the time? Well, it's the neck. And the neck shape on Harley Benton's is beautiful, and the neck finish itself, absolutely great. It's really, really good. But the fretwork is, for me at least, unacceptably bad on all three of the guitars that I've had here, and that was not the case with the Squiers. With the Squiers, even the cheapest Affinity model has several categories better fretwork than any of these three guitars have, which cost almost twice as much. So that to me is quite a big of an issue, especially because these are targeted for beginners. So the beginners don't really have to cut their hands here, and you can get for less money or the same amount of money an equivalent Squier Stratocaster, which with the HSS configuration. And if you go for the custom Vibe series, which is in the $400-ish range, you're gonna get considerably better quality of a guitar than what I actually see here. No, they will not be as striking and as beautiful to look at, and they will not have locking tuners. On my Fender Stratocaster, the Classic Vibe 50 that I've kept, that was the first thing that I changed. I changed the tuners, and once I've done that, it was absolutely amazing and yeah, perfectly spot on. So definitely the tuners on those, because they're Classic Vibe, those Classic Vibe tuners are not nearly as good as these. That's for sure. The other big benefit of all of these guitars is you have the Graphtec Tusk nut here, but for example, if I compare it to, let's continue the comparison with the Squier, in this case, let's say Stratocaster, in the Classic Vibe series, you get the bone nut. So that's not really that big of a difference, you know, real bone, artificial bone, that's different, but it's not plastic. Well, this is form of plastic, but it's a different type of like special plastic. So where do we stand with the Harley Benton Fusion III Pro series? Well, for the price, they are certainly the most beautiful guitars that you can buy. And individually, if you were to look on paper, you get the roasted flamed maple neck, you get locking tuners, you get really high quality bridge, you get Alnico 5 pickups, you absolutely, you do get all of that. And that should be a tremendous amount of value, and I guess it is. But somehow, when you combine it all together, for me, they are not good enough. And for me, Squier experience of testing out multiple models resulted in me actually keeping one of the models, and testing 3 of the Harley Bentons resulted in me returning all 3 of them and having 0 regrets whatsoever. And what's even worse, for me at least, I have 0 desire to try any other Harley Benton guitar if this is what it actually has to offer. So what does that mean? Well, in my experience, it means that I think that when you're buying a Harley Benton guitar, you need to be very lucky. And if you are, and you get a properly quality controlled unit, then you will end up with an absolutely fantastic guitar and an absolutely fantastic value for money. So maybe that's what's been happening, that the reviewers were lucky and they were getting the best units out of the series so that it can actually show what the potential of the guitar is. But my real world experience was I didn't request the units from Harley Benton. I didn't request the units from Thomann. I just went ahead and bought them like any other customer and wanted to see what I get. And I'm not getting what the reviewers are actually talking about. I'm getting a horrible fretwork and absolutely unbelievable level of roughness on, or the lack of polish on the frets. There's inconsistency in build quality, inconsistency in setup, and inconsistency in sound as well, in all 3 guitars that should have been, to all intents and purposes, the same guitar, just a different look. So to me, that is a huge push-off from the brand entirely. And yeah, I am curious to try out other guitars from Harley Benton, but my expectations after this, my own personal experience of ordering 3 Harley Benton Fusion III Pro series guitars and testing them out, my expectations just went way, way, way down. So maybe the problem is the hype around the models, and then that raises the expectations way too high. Maybe the problem is quality control inconsistency, and you know, some of the units will truly be what they are touted as the best thing you can buy for 400-ish bucks. But for me and for my money, I would always go rather to check out the Squier Classic Vibe, for example, and see what that brings to the table than one of these guys, because Squier has shown that the quality control that they bring to the table in that price range, damn it, I've cut myself and now my hand is itching when I was actually doing all of this. That's what I don't want. That's why I don't want these guitars, because they harm me. To wrap it all up, and all kidding aside, I think the main problem here is the quality control and consistency of control. If Harley Benton is able to get that quality control up quite a few notches and to have a much more consistent level of quality that leaves Thomann shop to the actual buyers, not just to the reviewers to have the cream of the crop, but actually to all of the buyers, that you get an equivalent type of, or more equal type of an experience, then in my mind, then these guitars, at least the Fusion III Pro series, would provide an exceptional value for money. But as it is now, and in this experience, absolutely not. Okay, so that was my experience. Tell me what you think in the comments down below, and what was your experience if you had purchased a Harley Benton guitar, maybe Fusion 2, Fusion 3 or something like that. How was the fretwork on your guitar? How was the setup on your guitar? Did it have blemishes? Did you have pickup switch selector issues? How are the tuners, etc., etc.? Maybe I was exceptionally unlucky and got all three of them that they're like this, but you know, the odds are a little bit against that. So I'm interested to hear in the comments down below what other people's experience is with these guitars, and also do you have any experience with any other guitars to actually compare the Harley Benton against something else. Let me know what you think about the video in general, and if you would like to see more content of this type, and would you like me to test more Harley Benton guitars of different models, more Squier guitars, or maybe something else. I hope that you found the video informative and useful or fun. If you did, please like and subscribe, and ding the notification button in the description below to get notified when new content comes out on My Deep Guide. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and see you in the next video. Bye.